He was crowned a child. He ruled through fear. He murdered his enemies and his own son. This is not the story of madness alone. This is the story of how absolute power was born in Russia. This is Ivan the Terrible. In this episode, we follow Ivan IV from a neglected boy inside the Kremlin to the first ruler to call himself Tsar of all Russia. You'll see how trauma, war, and paranoia created a system where terror became policy, and why Ivan's reign reshaped Russia for centuries. Ivan was born in 1530, heir to the Grand Principality of Moscow. When his father died, he was only 3. The throne passed to his mother, Elena Glinskaya, who ruled as regent. 5 years later, she died suddenly, and many believed poison did what illness could not. That's when the boyars moved in. The great noble clans fought like predators around the child ruler. They stole from the treasury, traded offices for favors, and treated the young prince as a prop. Ivan grew up surrounded by luxury and starvation at the same time. Gold icons on the walls, but servants who ignored him, meals that arrived late, and guards who watched the nobles, not the child. He learned early that Russia was not ruled by law. It was ruled by fear, alliances, and humiliation. Ivan remembered every insult, every shove, every whispered laugh when he walked past. As a teenager, he began testing power on those weaker than him. Chroniclers describe him throwing animals from palace towers and ordering arrests on impulse. But beneath the cruelty was a lesson. The boyars respected only force. At 16, Ivan decided he would never be a puppet again. In 1547, Ivan staged a coronation unlike any Russia had seen. He did not crown himself Grand Prince. He crowned himself Tsar, a title echoing Caesar, claiming imperial, almost sacred authority. It was a declaration. Power would no longer be shared. For a time, Ivan looked like a reformer. He relied on a circle of advisors sometimes called the Chosen Council. He convened assemblies, reorganized local administration, and revised law. A new law code, the Sudebnik of 1550, tightened state control and tried to curb corruption. He built a standing infantry force, the Streltsy, loyal to the crown rather than to rival nobles, and he expanded. In 1552, Ivan conquered Kazan. In 1556, Astrakhan fell. These victories broke major Tatar power on the Volga and opened trade routes deep into Eurasia. To many Russians, the young Tsar looked like a builder of order, the man who would protect them from raiders and noble abuse. But power did not heal Ivan. It amplified him. Because Ivan's Russia was still surrounded by enemies, and the Tsar's mind was still surrounded by ghosts. In 1558, Ivan launched the Livonian War to reach the Baltic Sea. At first, the campaign promised prestige and access to European trade. Then the war widened. Poland, Lithuania, Sweden, and other powers pushed back. What began as ambition turned into a draining struggle that devoured money, men, and patience. Then Ivan lost the one person who could quiet his inner storm. In 1560, his wife Anastasia died. Ivan was convinced the boyars poisoned her. Whether true or not, the belief mattered more than the facts. From that moment, suspicion became Ivan's compass. He began seeing treason in every setback. A delayed shipment was sabotage. A defeat was betrayal. An advisor who hesitated was an enemy wearing a friend's face. The Tsar's logic became simple and terrifying. If fear controls people, then Russia must fear me more than it fears foreign armies. In 1565, Ivan did something unprecedented. He divided the country into 2 spheres. One remained under normal administration. The other became the Oprichnina, Ivan's personal domain, run by his own men, funded by confiscated land, and enforced by terror. He created the Oprichniki, a private force loyal only to the Tsar. They rode in black. Their symbols, dog heads and brooms, were meant to signal that they would sniff out traitors and sweep them away. This was not random violence. It was political engineering through fear. Nobles were arrested without trial. Estates were seized. Families were broken. Confessions were extracted in dungeons. Ivan didn't just punish rivals. He dismantled the idea that anyone could be safe without his favor. The boyars had ruled Ivan's childhood through intimidation. Now Ivan ruled Russia the same way, but on a national scale. The climax of this terror came in 1570, when Ivan accused Novgorod, a rich, proud city with ancient traditions, of conspiring with foreign enemies. Whether the plot was real or imagined hardly mattered. Ivan marched in with the Oprichniki and unleashed a nightmare. Chroniclers describe mass arrests, executions, and weeks of violence. People were dragged from homes, interrogated, and killed. Churches were looted. Merchants were ruined. The city's power was shattered. Novgorod was not just punished. It was made into an example. Every noble, every official, every city in Russia received the same message. Your loyalty is not assumed. It is demanded. And the price of doubt is annihilation. But terror has a cost. Ivan's purges didn't only remove enemies, they destroyed competence. Officials governed by fear make safe choices, not smart ones. Provinces emptied as people fled. Land changed hands so often it stopped producing. And while Ivan hunted traitors, real threats moved. In 1571, Crimean Tatar forces reached Moscow and burned much of the city. The capital itself went up in flames, a brutal reminder that fear inside the state cannot replace defense at the borders. Ivan responded with vengeance and militarization. In 1572, Russian forces defeated the Crimean Tatars at Molody, preventing another catastrophe. But the lesson remained. The Tsar's obsession with internal enemies had nearly left Russia exposed. Meanwhile, the Livonian War continued to bleed the country. Years passed. Fortunes shifted. Russia's early gains collapsed. The Baltic dream turned into exhaustion. By the late 1570s, Ivan had created a machine of fear that could crush cities, but could not guarantee victory, stability, or trust. As Ivan aged, his paranoia deepened. He wrote furious letters to former allies, arguing about loyalty, betrayal, and divine judgment. He demanded constant proof of devotion. He attended punishments personally, alternating between religious repentance and sudden cruelty. His court became silent. People learned to speak carefully, to avoid eye contact, to praise without sounding eager. In a state ruled by suspicion, every word can be weaponized. Ivan's power was absolute, and so was his loneliness. The Oprichnina was eventually dissolved, but the mindset remained. The Tsar could take everything, and no institution could stop him. That is the true birth of autocracy, not a crown, but a system where fear replaces law. In 1581, Ivan crossed a line that even terror could not justify. During a heated argument, he struck his son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, with a staff. The wound was fatal. Witnesses described the Tsar collapsing in horror as he realized what he had done. The man who demanded obedience had destroyed the one person meant to succeed him. With his son dead, the future became fragile. Ivan left a weaker heir, a court filled with fear, and a country exhausted by war and purges. He died in 1584, and Russia soon slid into the time of troubles, years of famine, civil conflict, and foreign invasion. Ivan had built a state that depended on one man's will. When that will vanished, the structure cracked. Ivan IV is remembered as the Terrible, but the word also carries the meaning of awe and dread. He was not a simple caricature of madness. He was intelligent, literate, strategic, and deeply scarred by a childhood of violence. He expanded Russian territory and strengthened the idea of a centralized state, but he also normalized terror as governance, confiscation, secret police, public punishment, and the belief that loyalty must be enforced through fear. Later rulers would inherit that lesson, whether they embraced it or tried to escape it. Ivan's reign proves something that echoes far beyond Russia. When a leader answers to no one, the state becomes the leader's mind. And if that mind is ruled by fear, the nation will bleed. Ivan the Terrible did not inherit terror, he built it. From a frightened child to an absolute ruler, his life shows what happens when power answers to no one. He created a state where fear was law and paid for it with blood, madness, and loss. This was not just the story of a tyrant. It was the birth of a system that would shape Russia for centuries. Subscribe to history. Scribe for more stories of the people who changed the world forever.